मोबाइल जल्दी. Hi friends, I'm waiting for 11:30 a.m. to start the recording, start the YouTube live. I'm ready.
डिस्प्ले में अच्छा हो.
Pause no हुई नहीं क्या? Hello. लगा नहीं. दिमाग नहीं लगा. Time to you. Last time. चालू कर. Hello. Hi friends. This is Bipin Savla going live right now on YouTube. Presenting the session on unlocking financial planning Fundas, session 1 in English. Last Friday on 24th of April, I had done a similar session on unlocking financial planning Fundas. It was in Hindi. Approximately or about 450 viewers watched the video, and many of my colleagues, many of my friends, many of my relatives, they came to me and they told that I should do the similar session in English. So here I am with the same session in English, Unlocking Financial Planning Fundas, session 1. Now, before I can proceed, I would just want to give a brief introduction of myself. I am Bipin Savla. I'm India's leading LIC agent and certified financial planner. I have a staff of 10 people, a team of 10 people who work for me. We are into the services of insurance, investment, and financial planning. We have more than 900 families and 3,600 individual clients. We are servicing at present more than 10,000 life insurance policies. We are also into non-life insurance, mutual funds, bonds. Except for equity, we are into all kinds of financial instruments and investments. Over the last 20 years, since I began working in 2001, I have gained a lot of experience by meeting new clients, taking training from various trainers, and as they say, practicality teaches you more than what theory can teach. So I have an experience of 20 years wherein I have come across different kinds of individuals having different kinds of financial goals, different types of income, different set of expenses. And all these years I have learned a lot. And I felt like at the beginning of January 2020, I wanted to do a social mission wherein I will educate 5 lakh people. So that is how the concept of this presentation of unlocking financial fundas was born. So here we go. I would request you all to take a pen and paper or a notepad with you so that you may write down all the fundas which I will share and those which you feel are important for you in your financial life. Now, at the same time, I also want to inform you that I'm also writing a book on this unlocking financial fundas, which will be released in 2 months' time. So right now, I will request all my viewers, whoever are watching me on this YouTube live session, that please be in touch with me. Please subscribe our channel so you will be able to know when we are launching the book. That will be a great help to you. So beginning with the financial planning fundas, funda number one. Now, the funda number one is budget. We have all listened and heard about budget. Every year the government prints out a budget. What is budget? Budget is the statement of income and expenses of a family, of a person, of a business, of any government. Now, what are the four important components of budget? The first component, or the first funda is a formula is income minus expenses is equal to surplus. Whenever you have a positive surplus, it means your expenses are under control. If you have a negative surplus, you are doing more expenses than your income can provide for. A positive surplus will always help you in saving something for the future. But if you have a negative surplus and it remains negative for a long time, then you need to think of how will you have any future. The second formula is income minus expenses is equal to savings. The surplus which is converted into savings, that is the formula. Income minus expenses is equal to savings. And most Indians have the habit of doing savings for the future. It has been a tradition which we have been following since our ancestors. The concept, however, has become very outdated now because when you say income minus expenses is equal to savings, there is hardly anything left after doing all the expenses. So it should be the other way around. The new age formula should be income minus savings is equal to expenses. If you see in our Indian tradition, in our Hinduism tradition and culture and religion, we always offer the prasad to the god, to our beloved deity, by first cooking the meals in our home, and then first we offer to the god as prasad, and then we take it, we grahan, do the grahan of that as prasad, and then we have our own meals. In the similar way, when you have income, you must first of all take out something as savings because that is the savings which will help you in your future. And we people always pray to our God for helping us in the future. So what God says is that just like you take out prasad from the meal for me first, in a similar way, you take out some savings from your income first and then you expend the other money which is remaining. However, nowadays we are going through a lockdown period. The lockdown has been yesterday extended, uh, extended for the third time. Now we are going to be under a lockdown until 17th of May. This corona lockdown has taught us the importance of emergency fund. What is emergency fund? Emergency fund is a fund which you need to have as your monthly expenses for the next 3 to 6 months. Those amount of money should be with you. That is called as emergency expenses. So then income minus savings minus emergency fund is equal to expenses. So you should make provision for savings, you should also make provision for emergency fund, and then you should expend or spend your money. The next funda is simple funda, profit and loss. All of us have studied this in the school in maths. What is profit? Profit is selling price minus purchase price. What is profit percentage? When you divide the profit amount of profit with the purchase price and multiply by 100, you get a profit percentage. Similarly, loss is negative profit, nothing but negative profit. That is when the selling price is lower than the purchase price, you Yes, purchase price is lower than the selling price, then you have a loss. That is why the formula for loss is equal to selling price minus purchase price. And similarly, the formula for loss percentage is the loss upon divided by purchase price multiplied by 100. Now, why is the concept of profit and loss important? Many of us Indians are small time business owners. We are shopkeepers. Uh, we are vegetable vendors. We have our small businesses. But many a times, what happens is we are never in the habit of actually calculating our profit and loss in the business. So we need to develop a habit of giving proper accounts for the business, not only for the purpose of income tax and GST, but also for ascertaining how much profit or loss we are having, so that all those things or all those activities which are leading to loss can be actually stopped by you, can be minimized by you, so that you have less of loss and more of profits. Now, whenever I talk to any customer about investment, it has been a traditional things in the last 20-25 years that people always ask me in Hindi, कितने साल में डबल होगा या कितने साल में ट्रिपल होगा? There is a simple formula for calculating how things can become double or triple. The formula for double is called as the rule of 72. You have to just understand the simple formula. If you want to find out the number of years it will take for an investment to double, then you have to do what is number of years is equal to 72 divided by rate of interest. So if the rate of interest is say 8%, so if you divide 72 by 8, then you will get 9. So it will take an investment giving 8% returns compounded, it will take 9 years to double the money. Similarly, the formula for triple is called as the rule of 114, wherein the formula goes like this: number of years is equal to 114 divided by rate of interest. An example, if investment gives returns of say 6%, and you want to find out how many years it will take to get it doubled, then you just have to divide 114 by 6. So the answer will be 19. So it will get 19 years for the investment to get tripled. So this is the formula of double and triple, that is rule of 72 and rule of 114. I might be going a little fast because I have time constraints. I request all of you to note down my number 9922108423. After the session is over, you can WhatsApp me your queries and doubts, and then I can clear them. I will talk to you personally on phone or WhatsApp, and I'll clear your doubts. We go towards the next funda, that is a funda of simple interest. What is simple interest? Simple interest is when you are, say, for example, investing 1 lakh rupees in a bank for 5 years, and at the end of 5 years, you're getting 1,35,000 rupees on maturity. So the total interest earned is 35,000 rupees. Now, when we divide this 35,000 rupees by the number of years, that is 5, so we get 7,000. So 7,000 is basically the amount of interest earned by your investment per year. So 7% is the simple interest which you have gained in this transaction with the bank. Now, in the concept of simple interest, at the end of every single year, the interest is not added to the principal amount and the re-interest is not calculated that way. So, for that thing to happen, there is another concept called as compound interest. Compound interest is a system wherein if you are depositing 1 lakh rupees with the bank for 5 years and the interest given by the bank is 7% compounded, then at the end of 1 year, the bank will add 7,000 rupees to the principal amount of 1 lakh. So it will become 1 lakh 7,000. So for the next year, the interest of 7% will be calculated on 1 lakh 7,000 and not on the principal amount of 1 lakh rupees. This concept is called as the compound interest concept, compound interest formula. Now, because interest is added on principal and again the interest is calculated every year, obviously the compound interest will be much higher than the simple interest. So whenever you do any investment, you have to understand whether the interest provided is simple or compound. Most of the times, all financial institutions, banks, they offer compound interest. Then we go for a very important formula or rule. Now, nowadays, I see that we are all all the youngsters, my clients who are in the age of 22 to say 30, 35, 40, after setting up their business or getting settled into their profession and having a house, their first liking or dream is to get a car. So we need to have this formula or rule in mind before buying a car. The formula goes like this: 20, 4, 10. What is 20? 20 is the percentage of down payment which you should be able to pay for the car. 4 is the number of years for the loan tenure. And 10 is the percentage of your income which should be able to meet all your total monthly expenses towards the car, including its EMI, including the maintenance, including the insurance premium, and the fuel expenses. So what I mean to say is that whenever you want to buy a car, see that the loan tenure is not more than 4%, 4 years. The total amount of EMI should not be more than 10% of your income, and you should be paying at least 20% as down payment. However, due to some reason, if you are down payment, you want to say repay the loan earlier and you have a very good income, say about 1.5 lakh rupees per month or more, then the formula can be tweaked as 2314, where 20% is the down payment, 3 is the number of years for the loan tenure, and 14 is the percentage of your monthly income which you can allocate towards the car expenses, including here. However, if your income is low or you are not having 20% for down payment, then you can also modify the formula as 15, 5, 12, whereas 15 is the percentage of down payment, 5 is the number of years for the loan, and 12 is the percentage of your income which will go towards allocating towards the expenses, including EMI. So keep this formula in mind: 24, 10, 23, 14, 15, 5, 12. Then the most important, whenever we are making a budget, we always think of the expenses, we also think of savings. But is there any specific formula which will help us in actually allocating different amounts or different percentages of our income towards different things? Yes, there is a formula. That formula is called as 30, 30, 30, 10. Please note down 30, 30, 30, 10. That makes 100. So now what is 30? The first 30. The first 30 is a percentage of your annual net taxable income which should go towards your regular expenses like food, clothing, maintenance of house, vehicles, appliances, basic school and junior college education of your children, bills like electricity, phone, gas, etc., premium for your vehicle insurance and health insurance. These make up the 30% of your taxable income. These are called as regular expenses. The next 30 is the percentage of your taxable income which should go towards asset creation, towards purchase of a property like house or additional property like a shop or something else. It should go towards the EMIs which you actually create as liability for repaying the housing loan, repaying the car loan. It should go towards your personal expenses, and if you might have some spare amount of money, and actually you should do this, is that is 1 to 2% of your total taxable income. If you can spare it, then use it for charity. Because when you give something without any expectation to others and help, then the happiness which you get is the amazing. It is very, very good. It is very satisfying. Then the next 30%, the third 30%, this is the most important part. This is the allocation towards your savings. 30% should go towards savings. Because this savings can be of two types: short-term savings and long-term savings. Short-term savings, the allocation should be 10 to 15% of the income, and it should be through FDs, RDs, mutual funds, and the period can be 5 to 10 years. Now, what can you use these short-term returns for? The returns from the short-term savings can be used for your home renovation. They can be used for buying assets like cars, equipment like camera and musical instruments, which you can use for pursuing your hobbies. So that is the last 30%. So 30 regular expenses, 30 towards Asset creation, EMIs, personal expenses, charity, 30 towards your savings, wherein short-term savings in the range of 10 to 15% for 5 to 10 years, and the remaining 15 to 20% in long-term savings. We'll come to that long-term savings now. Long-term savings should be done through LIC, PPF, mutual fund, and mutual fund SIP. These long-term savings returns can be used for higher education of children, child marriage provision, retirement planning and regular income, estate planning, financial income protection for your family. The last 10% which is remaining is allocated towards your lifestyle expenses, towards taking out your family for a dinner, for a movie, and for a vacation. So this formula of 30, 30, 30, and 10, if you apply it with discipline in your financial life, then you will be having a very satisfying and very happy financial. Please note down this formula. It's very important. Next is the most important formula. Nowadays, all the youngsters, as soon as they get into a job or settled into a profession or have a moderately settled business, they want to purchase a housing loan. I have seen many of my clients' children, they purchase one more house though they are living with their parents because it gives them a sense of self-respect, self-achievement. So I say that it is very good to have the dream of having your own house, but please keep this formula in mind when you are uh, going for taking a housing loan. Just 1 minute. 20, 15, 20. That's the formula. The first 20 is a 20 percentage of down payment. If you want to purchase a house, you should be able to pay at least 20% of the cost of the house as down payment. 15 is the tenure of your housing loan, 15 years. And the last 20 is the amount of your taxable monthly income. 20% of your taxable monthly income, you can allocate it towards the housing loan EMI. So that's the formula 20, 15, 20. Minimum 20% down payment towards the cost of the house. The loan tenure should be 15 years, and 20% of your taxable monthly income can be allocated as EMI for the housing loan. However, sometimes it happens that you don't have much of uh, amount of money for down payment towards the cost of the house, and at the same time you might be a relatively young person in the age group of 25 to say 30 or 35, then the formula can be tweaked a little. So the formula now becomes 15, 20, 25, where first 15 is a 15% down payment towards the cost of the house, 20 is the loan tenure, 20 years, and 25% is the amount of your taxable monthly income which you can allocate towards the housing loan EMI. Please keep this formula in mind for housing loan. It is first is 20, 15, 20, and second is 15, 20, 25. Now, when you buy a house, you need to also look at some documentation properly. So before buying a house, please verify all the property documents with some legal expert. Whenever you're buying a house, try to take a relatively new or newly constructed property, say in the age of 5 to 7 or 10 years old, or you can also go for an under construction property. But whenever you go for an under construction property, see that the builder is a reputed builder, because nowadays many times the builders are not able to give the possession in time. Then our money which has been invested and the housing loan interest and EMI what we are paying, we have to stretch it too far. So see that the builder is reputed. One more thing I want to give a tip. Nowadays, I have seen that most of the youngsters they have a dream of having a house or a home in a posh area, in a very good society. There is nothing wrong in having such dreams because dreams only will take you forward. But at the same time, from the last 20 years of experience, I want to say that when you see a dream, also start taking action towards fulfilling the dream. So you have to work hard. But in spite of all those things, if you are not able to take a house in the desired area, the area of your choice, then don't be sad because it is more important that you take a house without stretching your finances. Because I have seen people who take a house in a very plush society, plum society, the EMI is too big. The EMI when they are starting the housing loan is too big and they are able to manage at that particular time because they have good income. But when there is a situation, crisis is there, like the one right now we are going through is COVID. Many of us are not having income from their jobs. So how will those times be managed? So it is better to take a housing loan and a house according to your budget and as per the formula which I have given to you. Now, this is more important. This I'm going to talk about two ratios which you need to actually look at. They are very simple. I'm not going to give you any lesson on maths. The first ratio is monthly income to EMI ratio. What is this ratio? This ratio says that whatever your monthly income is, your total EMIs towards your housing loan, personal loan, car loan, credit card loan, or unsecured loan, the total EMIs should not be more than 30 or 30 percentage of your total monthly income. In other ways, the in the reverse way I can say is your EMI, your monthly income should be at least 3.5 to 4 times of your EMI. So if your EMI is 30,000 rupees, then your monthly income should be at least 1 lakh rupees minimum. So please keep this ratio in mind. Monthly income to EMI ratio. Your EMI should be not more than 30% of your monthly income. The other way around, we can say is that your monthly income should be at least 3.5 to 4 times of your EMI. The other ratio which I need to talk about is asset to liability ratio. What is asset? Asset is a house which you own, it is a vehicle which you own, it is a bank fixed deposit, it is a mutual fund savings, it is a life insurance premium. These all constitute your assets. What is liability? Liability is the amount of loan which you have taken from a bank, from a financial institution, from any personal relative or friend. So the formula says the ratio should be that the total amount of your assets should be at least 3 to 4 times than the amount of your liability. So say you have a 30 lakh rupees loan, total loan including housing, car, personal, credit card, etc. Then your size of your asset should be at least 1 CR, not less than that. So keep this in mind. Your liabilities and your asset ratio should be such that your asset should be at least 3 to 4 times of your liability. Next, we go to a very important formula which is called as the financial life cycle formula. All of us have three very distinct and important stages or phases of our life. So this formula is called as 25, 35, 20. This is basically a concept which you need to understand, which everybody of us, all of us go through, but we never realize this concept. So just for your realization, I'm repeating, the first 25 years of your age is the time when you were taken care of by your parents or guardians since your birth until you completed your education at the age of 24, 25. Then once you complete your education, you either join a profession, a job, or you go into your family business, or you set up your own business, and you start earning income at least for the next 35 years. That is from the age of 25 to 60. 60 is what we consider as retirement age in India. So that is the second phase of your financial life cycle, 25 to 60, when you're earning income. And then starts the third phase of 60 and beyond up to say 85 or 90, which is your lifespan, which can be your age. Because the lifespan of Indians is increasing as per the lifespan statistics. Right now, Indian males can live up to the age of 76, 78, and Indian females can live up to the age of 80, 82. So obviously, in some time to come, we might all be living until 85, 90 years of age. This phase, the last 25, is more important because this is the phase when you are retired, you don't have any income, and you have to either depend on your children, or you have to depend on all the savings which you have done in the past when you are earning for your retirement purpose. So please keep this formula in mind: 25, 35, 25. The first 25 is your the age from your birth to you completing your education when you are dependent on your parents or guardian. The next 35 is 25 to 60 is your working age, and 60 and above until 85, 90 is your retirement age. With you, when you don't have any earned income, you have to depend on either your children or on the income which you have created for yourself when you are working by taking some retirement. So as I stressed in the last formula, that 60 to 85, 90 might be your age in the future. And this is the age when you don't have any earned income. And this is the age when you have to depend on your children, or you have to depend on your past savings. That is why, please understand this concept very important. This concept is called as pay your future self. Now, what is the concept of pay your future self? In India, we have seen that whenever any uh, person wants to marry off his daughter, especially when he is looking for a groom who is going to be a salaried person, then they prefer a government salaried person first, because what they think is that government salaried person will be getting secure job. He'll be getting pension when he retires. He'll be getting retirement benefits and all. However, you have to understand that in India since 2009, the government has stopped giving defined benefits of retirement to its employees. Prior to that, they were given defined benefits of retirement, which means that whenever they joined the government job, they used to know that this is the amount of pension which I'll be getting once I retire. But post 2009, the government employees or the employees working in the government companies, they themselves are not aware how much pension they will be getting when they retire. And one more thing is that this pension comes to the government employees or the government company employees because they have been contributing 15 to 20% of their income towards pension fund, retirement fund, gratuity fund, and the salary which they get in hand is always the salary which is given to them after deducting this 15 to 20%. So similarly, if we want to build a retirement corpus for us in the future so that after 60 we can have some income to depend on, we need to pay ourselves today, our future self. In the future, you are going to require money for surviving, for living a happy life. So for that money which you require in the future, you need to pay yourself today. That is called as pay your future self. So out of total income, try to save 15 to 20% towards your future retirement income. That is why you should pay yourself today. 20 to 20% of your income. If you're a businessman, take it aside and put it in a retirement planning solution, and then you spend all the remaining money as per the formulas which I have given earlier. That is the concept of pay your future self. Very important. Now there are some thumb rules of insurance which you need to understand. What is life insurance? Life insurance is basically replacement of income when you are not there. In any family, the breadwinner is the most important person because he is earning income. And as I told you in the financial life cycle, in the 25 to 60 years of age of the breadwinner of the family, his children, his wife, his parents depend on him, or rather on his income. So if he is not there, then on what will they depend on? Therefore, you have to take a life insurance policy which will act as a replacement of your income when you are not there anymore. What is the formula? What is the thumb rule? The thumb rule is that you should have at least 15 to 20 times of your annual income as life insurance. And it depends on your lifestyle and your liabilities. If you have a if you have a lifestyle which is superior, which is luxurious, and you also have liabilities at the same time in the form of housing loan, personal loan, car loan, or business loan, then you need to have higher amount of life insurance that would be at least 20 times of your annual income. But if you are having a simple lifestyle and you don't have much of liabilities, then you can do with having life insurance equal to 15 times of your annual income. So please remember the formula. Life insurance thumb rule says 15 to 20 times of your annual income should be your life insurance. Second, I come to is mediclaim or health insurance. Nowadays, we have seen during this corona and before corona also that the hospitalization expenses are increasing day by day. You would have seen in your life itself that some of your family member or your relative or your friend, when he or she was admitted in the hospital, and even if they had to be just spending say 5, 6, or 7 days for a treatment of a common disease like dengue in the hospital, then they would have been served a bill of at least 1.5, 2 lakh rupees. So hospitalization expenses are increasing, and they also depend in the city which you're living. If you're living in a metro, the hospital expenses are very high. But if you're living in a suburb, town, small town, then also the hospitalization expenses are moderately high. So you need to have good amount of mediclaim. So how would you go about mediclaim? The thumb rule says you should have at least 10 to 20 lakh rupees of basic mediclaim, and in addition to that, you should have at least 15 to 30 lakh rupees of super top-up mediclaim, which will be activated once the basic mediclaim is exhausted. So that is the thumb rule for mediclaim or health insurance: 10 to 20 lakhs of basic mediclaim, and at the same time, if you can afford, 15 to 30 lakhs of super top-up. And also see to it that if you can afford, instead of going for a floater policy which gives a common cover to the entire family, you should go for a individual policy which can cover all the different members in your family. Though the premium is high, but if you can afford, you should do that. Now, I'll just take a pause and say.
Well,
Now, next thumb rule is the thumb rule for critical illness insurance. Nowadays, you are seeing that India is called as the capital, diabetes capital of the world, cancer capital of the world, heart attack capital of the world. Because in India, we are having so many people who are affected with either two conditions, either blood pressure or diabetes. Now, these both conditions, blood pressure and diabetes, might lead to many critical illnesses like heart attack, stroke, paralytic stroke, and whatnot. So it becomes mandatory that in addition to your life insurance, in addition to your mediclaim insurance, super top-up insurance, you must have critical illness insurance. Now, critical illness insurance, you should take at least for 10 lakhs, and you can, if your income permits, go up to 50 lakhs. This critical illness insurance will see to it that if you are diagnosed with any of the critical illness, then you'll be given a one-time defined sum insured, which will take care of your other expenses and support you financially, though you might get the hospitalized expenses reimbursed from the medical. Because once a person suffers from a critical illness, then he is rendered incomeless for a lot of time, a big amount of time, because he is taking a time to recover from that critical illness. Also, when you take critical illness insurance, you should see that the company which is providing the critical illness, actually, you should see 2 points. First, it should try to cover maximum, the policy should cover maximum number of critical illnesses. Second, if there is a possibility, the company should have a policy which can give you critical illness claims during your lifetime. So that is a thumb rule for critical illness, at least 10 lakhs, and if your budget permits, income permits, up to 50 lakhs, you can go for critical illness insurance. The next thumb rule is the thumb rule for cancer cover. I'll take 1 minute to speak on cancer. I have done a lot of research on cancer, and I have come to the conclusion that in India, cancer is spreading like anything. In India, the number of cancer patients are increasing by 27% every year. That number has doubled today, and we have more than 8 lakh, more than 11 lakh cancer patients in 1 year. That is 1.1 million. At the same time, the number of deaths due to cancer, or rather not getting proper treatment against cancer, the number of deaths are increasing. Last year, there were 7,84,000 deaths in India. That roughly comes to around 65,000 deaths in a month. That roughly comes to around 2,200 deaths in India has crossed almost 1,400. But that has been for the last 1.5, 2 months total period. Whereas what I'm talking about cancer, more than 2,200 people are dying per day in India due to cancer. That is why you need to take special policy for covering your risk due to cancer. That is, you should have a cancer cover policy for financial protection from cancer. And I might be biased, I might sound like biased, but if you want to go for a cancer cover policy, you should go with LIC's cancer. That is the thumb rule number 4 for insurance. Then the next thumb rule comes for is personal accidental insurance. Most of us in India have life insurance. We have mediclaim. Some of us, some of us have critical illness. Very few people have cancer cover, but very few people have personal accidental insurance. I would like to share one figure or statistic with you. In India, the number of accidents which take place every day is 11,000. 11,000 accidents per day. Though there are not as many deaths due to accident, but due to those accidents, people get their hands and legs fractured and they are rendered to bed for the 2 month period, 3 month period, 4 month period as per doctor's advice. During that period, if you are a small time businessman, you're a small time shopkeeper, you're a salaried person in a private job or a government job, your income will stop. Your company will not pay you any money. Your customers, which are in your business, they will not come to pay you any money because you are not doing your business, you are not going to job. That is why you should take a personal accident insurance. And the thumb rule says that the personal accident insurance policy, which offers a benefit called as weekly rest benefit, wherein when you are rendered bedridden due to a fracture in your hand or leg for n number of weeks or months, then that policy will pay you a fixed amount per week. That is called as weekly rest benefit. So your personal accident policy should be such that at least 50% of your monthly income is covered through the weekly rest benefit in a month. That is the thumb rule for personal accident insurance. Then we go to the next three important topics, very important, then I'll close. Savings for children, higher education. In India, we are called as a developing country. We are called as a country which is increasing its literacy day by day. We know that most scientists, most doctors, most engineers in US are Indians. Why? Because in India, slowly and steadily, we have developed this collective wisdom of educating our children. But this higher education has costs also, and we need to plan for the higher education of our children right from the day they take birth. So the thumb rule is simple. When you will be actually admitting your child to say kindergarten or nursery or primary school, that is in junior KG, from that day, whatever expenses will be taken into account annually, similar amount of annual amount of saving you should do for your child's higher education. What I mean to say is that whatever your child's education expense is there for the present annual education expense, similar amount, same amount should be invested for his future education expense. And that should be done from the day one. And secondly, you will be very surprised or shocked to know that if you delay in saving for your child's higher education, even by 1 year, you have to shell out 10% more than the save 10% more. If you delay for 2 years, you have to save 20% more. If you delay for 3 years, you have to save 30% more because the child's higher education period cannot be controlled by you or your savings or your income or your provisions in the future, because the child will complete its 15 SSC or matriculation in 15 years. It will complete his or her higher secondary education, that is 12th standard, at the age of say 17, 17 and a half, and then he or she will go for higher education. So you need to save from the day one. Then we come to the very important concept, which I already talked previously also, that you need to pay yourself for the future. That is, you need to save for your retirement. The simple thumb rule is, out of the, if you remember, I had told you the formula of 30, 30, 30, and 10. 30% towards your regular expenses, and the last 10% was towards your lifestyle expenses, towards your vacations. When you retire, you will only have these two expenses. You won't have any EMIs to pay, and you won't be required to save something. In fact, that will be the time when your savings will come back to you. So the two expenses which you need to take care of during retirement will be 30% of your regular expenses and 10% of your vacation and lifestyle expenses. So that 40%. So what you need to do is simple: calculate a 40% of your monthly expenses today and multiply it by a factor which I will give now. That is the amount which you will require in the future for your retirement monthly expenses. And accordingly, you should start saving. So if your retirement is 10 years from now, your monthly expenses will be 1.5 times of that 40%. So if your monthly expenses today are 1 lakh rupees, that 40% I'm talking about, 1 lakh rupees it is, then 10 years from now you will require 1.5 lakhs. 15 years from now you will require 2.25 lakhs. 20 years from now you will require 3 lakh rupees. 25 years from now you will require 4 lakh rupees, and 30 years from now you will require 5 lakh rupees. So if you're having 1 lakh rupees as regular expense and vacation expenses and lifestyle expenses today, the total, then after 30 years you'll require 5 lakh rupees. That amount increases due to inflation. So this is the formula. 10 years from now, 1.5 times, 15 years, 2.25 times, 20 years, 2 times, 25 years, 20 years, sorry, 3 times, 25 years, 4 times, and 30 years, 5 times. Then we go to the most important goal of any parent, that is child's marriage. If you are a proud father to a daughter or a proud parent to a daughter, you always want to see that he or she is wedded off or married off in a very nice way, in a grand way. And we Indians have the concept of something called as Kanyadan. Kanyadan. So this Kanyadan concept, or saving for your child's marriage, it has a simple formula. The rules or the formula to estimate the future expenses is the same as what I talked about in the retirement funda. If your daughter is going to be married today and the expenses are say 20 lakh rupees, and if the 20 lakh rupees expenses, if you were to marry your daughter today, then keeping that amount in mind, if your daughter's marriage is going to be 10 years from now, it will be 1.5 times. So 20 lakhs will become 30 lakhs. If the period is 15 years from now, then it will be 20 lakhs will become 2.25 times, that is 45 lakhs. If it is 20 years, 20 lakhs will become 3 times, 40 lakhs. And as I said in the formula or the funda for education, here also I would say that you should start saving from the day your daughter or son is born for their retirement, for their marriage provision. One thing I would like to say is we Indians have traditionally been investing in gold. And we always believe that gold is a contingency fund, it is an emergency fund because it is very liquid. We have seen that in our traditional homes and traditional Indian way of savings, our people and mostly our women have invested into gold. And whenever there is a situation in the family where there is emergency, financial emergency, there is uh, some business loss, then the wife or the mother of the house, she comes out, she gives away our gold jewelry, and she tells you can sell this and you can use it for meeting that emergency or meeting that loss. So I would say that if you are wanting to invest in gold for the marriage of your children, then do one thing: buy gold coins. It might be for 0.5 grams, 1 grams, 2 grams, 5 grams as per your budget, and do with a discipline. The discipline is very simple, very logical, very practical. Try to buy gold on all those days when there are birthdays in your house, in your family, when you are having your wedding anniversary, and when there are special festivals like Akshay Tritiya, Dhanteras. So if you start buying gold on all these days, the birthdays in your family, your wedding anniversary, on this festival, special festivals like Akshay Tritiya and Dhanteras, you would accumulate good amount of gold, and over the years, it will be converted into a good corpus. That gold will be not only useful for helping you out with your marriage of your child, it might also act as an emergency or contingency fund. But only one thing I would say, please buy physical gold and buy with a tax invoice. If you have to pay 3% extra on the amount of gold, please pay it, buy it with a tax invoice. Now I'll be ending my session. I'm just going to talk about something called as मेरे पास पैसा नहीं है बचाने के लिए, सेविंग्स करने के लिए. Or rather, when I talk to my clients and talk about their future and then tell them to invest something for their future, they say, I don't have money. And then they ask me the question, where is my money going? So I just tell you what happens is nowadays, because of education, because of technology, because of living in societies and complexes, because of our peer groups, because of our colleague groups, because of our friends and relatives, and most importantly, because of the advertisements which we see on TV, on YouTube, on Facebook, on paper, we are tempted to buy things which we usually don't require, or we are tempted to buy things which are of a higher value rather than buying a thing of the similar type for a lower value, because we find that that particular thing which we buy is associated with our status. We feel that if I don't have these things, what will my friends tell? What will my relatives tell? How would my image be presented to the world? So I'll tell you one thing. If you want to stop the leakage in the pants of your in the pockets of your pant, and you want to minimize the outflow of money towards these unwanted expenses, then you need to do three important things. I'll just give these are only indicative examples. The first example is if you want to buy a mobile, you not necessarily need to buy a high-end phone. You need to buy a phone which is in your budget and which meets all the requirements of what you want to do with that phone. First thing. Second thing, if you buy a phone, please don't change it very frequently. You should use a phone for at least 2.5 to 3 years. Similarly, when you're buying a motorcycle, you should see that the motorcycle is within your budget, the cost of it, and also it gives good amount of mileage so that you don't have to spend a lot on fuel or petrol. You should also see that you don't change your motorcycle also too frequently, and you should change it at least, use it for at least 6 years and 8 years even. Similarly, with the car also, you should see to it that you buy your car within the budget. I have already given you a formula for buying a car through a loan. And also, you should see to it that the car is good on mileage. It is useful for you and your family, for your personal and business uh, work, but it is within your budget and it is giving good mileage. And you should try to see that you keep or maintain a car for at least 6 to 8 years. So this is the three indicative examples which I'm giving to just let you understand subtly that you should not spend on things which are high end, which your friends or relatives are buying, which you're tempted to buy from advertisements. You should see what is the use, what is your budget, and accordingly you should spend your money. If you start doing this, things, then you will see that you are actually able to save a lot of money. And fourth indicative example would be going out for dinner or going out for a movie. See to it that you go out for a dinner. Not there is nothing bad in it, but try to decrease the frequency. If you're going out 4 times in a month, go 2 times. And when it comes to movie shows, try to see that you use offers which are available across various platforms for booking the tickets. At the same time, try to see that you try to go to the movie on such a day when the ticket prices are less. So these are all fundas which I have given you today about financial planning fundas. I gave the name Unlocking Financial Planning Fundas because we are under a lockdown. This is the best time for all of us to sit at home, listen to such fundas, and implement them in our lives. So, friends, thank you very much for joining us on this YouTube live session of Unlocking Financial Planning Fundas. It was session one. There are so many more fundas which I have from years of experience, which I want to share with you. So, I'll come out with the session two in a week or 2 weeks' time, and I'll inform you. Thank you very, very much. If you have liked this whole session, I would request you to like the video. I will also request you to subscribe to our channel for more such financial and motivational videos in the future. I thank you very, very much.